stuff we write, and I realize that leads to, you want to be compelling. I don't know, I just, like I said, I've gone, Phil Kessel, we're going to look back at his time here, and we're going to say it was unfulfilled potential. There's no question about that. I don't see how anybody can argue that for both him and the team. He did a lot of good things on the ice in terms of scoring goals. There's very few people in the NHL that scores the rate he does. He didn't miss games, which in this league is pretty impressive. But as a whole, we're going to look back and say, oh boy, there should have been more to go. The one thing I think they're going to miss about Kessel is, and I've talked about this before, there's a special kind of player that needs to succeed in a Canadian city. Like, you're one of two personalities. You're the PK Subban personality who embraces the big stage, who says there's nothing you can do that's going to knock me off the way I'm going, because I love this and I need this, I crave this, I want this. And there's the Sedin twins way of, there's nothing you're going to be able to do that's going to knock me off my path, because I don't read anything, I don't care what you have to say, I'm here to do my job and you're not going to stop me. And Kessel was more that way. Like, for a long time, anything that was ever written or said didn't bother him because he didn't pay attention. He was just here to do his job. And I think this was a trade that had to be made for Toronto, because they couldn't come back the way they left last year. And he was the guy that was going to get them the most in return. But I think the toughest thing for the Maple Leafs is that they're going to have to find another star player who, for the most part, will not be bothered about the market. And those guys are tough to find, and I think that's going to be their biggest challenge. I have no problem with them making the move. I understood why they did it, but the toughest thing to replace is going to be a star player, and they had one in Sundin, who for the most part never got annoyed by what was said or written about him, and Kessel for the most part until this year was the same way. I think in Canada and in tough, intense markets like this one, those guys are harder to find, and it's tough to lose them.
Elliot, from the Pittsburgh side, acquiring a guy like Phil Kessel, to me they're nowhere closer to winning the Stanley Cup by having Phil Kessel in their lineup. And am I way off with that?
I wouldn't say way off, George, because I think he's got a lot to prove as a player. And, but I do think that...
Well, given Phil Kessel's track record when he was played for Boston, traded from Boston to Toronto, and traded from Toronto to Pittsburgh. For a guy like Phil Kessel, it's not a knock on him. He's a good player, but I just think the team that he once played for wasn't, like, if Toronto had a different culture, instead of bringing through so many great head coaches, and this year Strong with Blues having no head guy as a general manager, they just have like a three-person committee, Brent Shannon, Kyle Dubas, and Mark Hunter. Like, I don't know why Toronto said, hey, let's bring in this Kyle Dubas. He's like assistant rookie general manager. He is general manager for like a hockey team and OHL. And he has like experience and all that. And then you bring in Mark Hunter. Dale Hunter's brother, Mark. And now they have Mike Babcock as a head coach who has experience, who has won a Stanley Cup, a gold medal in the Olympics.
I do think that, that one of their biggest problems last year is, look, in the playoffs, they lost, 3 or 4 2-1 games? Like, Pittsburgh goes out and gets him because they're looking at their roster and they're saying, despite the fact we have two cornerstone players up front and two future Hall of Famers up front, we couldn't score more than, 6-7 goals in a 5-game series against the New York Rangers? Like, Kessel alone should help that. They've still got, they're still got a lot to prove on the blue line. But I look at them now with the combination, the combination of him, Hornqvist, Kunitz, Pascal Dupuis, and the young Russian player they're bringing over. If they can find consistent lines and scoring from those guys, I think they're better. Now, their defense is going to be callow and young, and that's always going to be a question. But I do see them, and I do see the possibility that their biggest problem, which is somehow they can't score despite having Crosby involved in the lineup, Kessel should alleviate that.
Well, we'll find out, I guess. I want to just switch gears real quick, and I know you touched on it the other day in regards to Mike Richards, and you said you knew some stuff but weren't really saying. Do we know any more about what's going on with Mike Richards and what's happened, or any of the details as far as why his contract was terminated?
Well, I think the stuff that started to get out, I think, the stuff that started to get out about the border, I mean, we've all heard those rumors. I think you have to be careful because a guy hasn't been charged, and this is someone's future. So I think you have to be really measured with this. Now, there's an added dynamic now with what happened with Slavovoinov. This is a guy who is now admitted to, although it's not a felony, he's admitted to a crime. And, I'm very curious to see what's going to happen here. I know that if you take a look at that, Helene Elliott, who writes for the LA Times, had a really strong column overnight last night where she said that he should never play for that team again. The Kings should never allow it. And that's going to be interesting to see how that carries out because, if you look, one of the reasons that the Kings have not...
It definitely takes Slavovoinov now that he's in hot water and all that. He should have been more professional of what he has done. But as a hockey player, he's under par, but if I was LA Kings and you drafted the Slavovoinov, and kind of know he's going to be the next gem in LA Kings, and now that what's happened, maybe LA Kings should be like, gee, we drafted this guy, and now that he's going to be sent to jail for what he has done, it's like, it should have been the team that drafted that guy, kind of thinking if he's going to be an alright player, or he's going to be a bust. But Slavovoinov, he should have been more professional.
Voiding his contract is A, because I think he obviously is a more important player than Richard is at this time, but also B, is that if you look at what